decision if it's complex, if you've got two groups working together that are equally powerful, or if the outcome's not worth the conflict. Our next one is collaborating. I have I think collaboration is great. I think oftentimes we say we are using collaboration to prevent conflict, and the things that we're doing are not really collaborating. And then that causes frustration because the team says, well, we were collaborating and we told you this was a problem and you didn't address it. So I think, yes, absolutely, collaboration is super important, especially when we've got complex issues, especially when we need to hear a lot of viewpoints. We got to think outside the box, and everyone's kind of on equal footing. But make sure that's where you're at and you aren't just saying collaboration, because it does take time and effort. And it's not appropriate if are we going to use the red slide or the blue slide? I mean, that's, that we don't need to have 50 conversations about that when there's little time, when one of the groups is inexperienced, or we're in a crisis situation, depending on what it is. Conflict behavior, compromising. Again, what it sounds like, it's when we're trying to find an acceptable solution. But in reality, as we know from compromising, this means if we have two teams, two groups, two individuals that are compromising, they're both going to walk away having lost something. And that may be okay. It might be a temporary solution, or it might be the best case 75% of the way, getting us there. And that's okay if, again, we've got equal footing and two groups are coming and they're like, hey, we've got this policy, you own part A, we own part B, how are we going to use these resources amicably? The outcome shouldn't be, again, this is not life or death things. We wouldn't want to, this is not patient safety is, or your accreditation, licensing, those types of credentialing, those types of things would not be where we would want to compromise. I think it gets more into resourcing and space and things of that nature. Not appropriate, again, also, besides crisis, also a creative solution. And then avoiding, I know that sounds funny, but I think even when you look at, for those of you on the call that are PMPs, we learn a lot about risk management, and avoiding is actually one of the risk strategies. You just avoid that risk. So it sounds funny to say, and we have the little running away icon, but sometimes it is appropriate if the benefit is not worth that confrontation, or if time is needed. So I think about, as we are doing some of our reorganization, sometimes we don't have enough formal policy or formal information in place for us to make a decision. And we need to say, hey, we don't want to kick the can, but if we make a decision now, we're going to be back here in 90 days making a different decision. So, we're going to have to avoid coming up with a solution right now. And again, not for immediate action things, not for patient safety, though definitely don't avoid any risk around that. And then finally, accommodating when one person gives up their position, gives up what they need or what they want to be agreeable to the other party. Again, if this would never happen, but if the decision were, hey, the Excel division gets another instructional designer, or one of the MTF gets another nurse, the obvious choice is that the nurse is far, far, far more important. Obviously, that's never a conversation that would even happen, but that nurse is much more important than an instructional designer in that moment, because we're talking about patients. So issue is much important to the other person. The other person is in a better position or a stronger position either to argue for that with data or to use that resource. And again, long-term relationships are important, right? I don't want to say I scratch your back, you scratch mine, because that sounds like shady dealings and backdoor agreements, and that's not what I mean. But sometimes we do have to accommodate the folks that work around us, and then they hopefully with good relationships they'll do the same for us. Not great, issue of great concern, or creates frustration or exploitation if I'm always the one giving something up and no one else is. Yes, someone put in the chat, don't burn bridges. And I think these accommodating along with others really can help prevent that. So just want to recap, and I see someone put a screenshot in the chat: competing, collaborating, compromising, avoiding, and accommodating. And I will say, because I'm going to wrap up here so that we have at least a few minutes, 4 minutes or so for questions, that we will put, we're going to export the materials, and we'll be getting something in for you all. We just need to get that done today or tomorrow. So if you miss something, the key pieces, we'll go ahead and drop those into the course page, and then we can also have the team notify you all. So don't stress if you were trying